Hello and welcome, everybody. Come on in. Today is actually day 2 of the 3-day self-healing challenge, but we're rolling days 1 and 2 into one into this day because yesterday I forgot to hit the go live button. So I know I'm live now. I checked it on the other. So today we're going to really get into and explore self-healing. What is self-healing? How does it work? How do we access it? How do we do this magical thing? Well, it's not so magical, but before I get ahead of myself with all this, I do have the chat on. I would love for you to chime in and let me know that you're here, and I'll be able to answer your questions and coaching questions that you may have during our conversation today. So, the conversation that we're having on self healing today could be a little provocative, could provoke some raise some eyebrows. But that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to challenge the status quo. I'm here to empower all of you and all of us to our inner brilliance, our ability to heal ourselves, our ability to manifest like gangbusters, our ability to really have much more control over our lives than is taught to us or that is apparent, right? So today we're going to talk about taking back our power. We're going to talk about how our bodies are just so intuitively wired for healing and how that is the natural order of things. And when we can get into that flow, then everything works better. And then when we go against that flow and we create resistance, that's when disease and illness happens, right? So, um, let me go ahead and dive into my notes. I already started that, with the premise that all healing is self healing. That is a quote directly from Eric Pearl. I used to work for him at the Reconnection in Los Angeles. All healing is self healing, there is no other thing. So, there are things that act as a catalyst to help us heal ourselves, but nobody is doing the healing for us. Not even Reiki practitioners, not even energy healing workers. We are just the holders of space for healing. We are the conduit. We are the plus one that sometimes people need to lean on or lean into so that they can shore up their own belief system and faith in healing. So there's magic in numbers. And so, but you're always doing the healing. So I want to take you back to when you were a kid. So when you were a kid, I want to make sure my chat's open. When you were little and you fell down and scraped your knees, what did you do? Maybe you cried, maybe, ow, yeah, a lot of pain, but you ran inside, maybe crying, and in the standard household back in my day anyway, the go-to was Bactine, and so your parent or your caregiver would spray Bactine on your knee and then put a little Band-Aid on it, maybe give it a little kiss. And then what? We're our tears are gone, we're up and running, we're out the door, we're on to the next thing. And we don't put our attention to the sore or the healing process at all. We just do what kids do. We go out and play. And as a result of that, we have seen our little wounds heal. We've seen our scabs. We've seen all that good stuff. And so we always had faith that would work out for us. And so then it's with that childlike mind and wonder that we perpetuate the healing process a lot faster. So, little kids are kind of genius like that. The problem comes when we get into the grown up phase, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And let me pull my notes back up. Oop. Yeah. So this whole conversation really is a means to Again, question that status quo. Our culture the last few years has just gotten into a very strange place, in my opinion, a very popular opinion place, riddled with media influencers, the status quo, the mainstream, more so than I think that it ever has been in my entire life. And I've always kind of bucked the system, and it's it's prevalent. It's just so big now because we have a lot of media to help spread these messages of conformity and sameness and illness and disease and medications and pharmaceuticals and blah blah. I don't won't go into the dark side, but it is my job actually to speak up for us, to speak up for our natural capabilities of healing and remembering. This is my motto for my business: remember your inner brilliance. You knew it, you knew it once upon a time, and somewhere along the line we forgot because of all the conditioning, all the societal conditioning that happens, right? So my job is to help you remember that you are fully capable and fully empowered, and you have all the right tools, all the right resources right at your fingertips to help heal yourself in the healing process. So I have a quote from Abraham Hicks about the healing process. And it says, in very simple terms, in order to be at your maximum state of health and well being, you must be in vibrational alignment with your inner being. And in order to do that, you must be aware of your emotions and your feelings. So the emotions and the feelings are everything. They are indicators of when things are wrong, when things are out of alignment, when things need our attention, right? So a lot of people, including myself when I was younger, was very afraid of my emotions because I'm an empath and I'm super sensitive, and I would just get overly emotional. So I would stuff and stuff and stuff until things just blew up. Well, during my years of exploring this phenomenon of being a sensitive person, I've come to realize that, man, those emotions are so helpful to us. And if we can catch and have our, a developed intuition, we can we can grab those emotions and we can know that they're here for us to tell us something. And so now I just get curious as to those emotional responses that I have in my body instead of fear and running, right? So, um, talking about disease and illness, I want to talk about the different places where they might come from, right? So, and what our focus for this conversation is. So, a lot of disease and illness obviously come from the environment. They could be genetic, they can be infectious diseases, they can a lot of times be diet and lifestyle. And the one that I want to focus on the most is the emotional, mental, and psychic part of disease. So, even if an illness comes on that was brought on by an environmental or even a lifestyle choice, is still going to be affected by your emotional, mental state and how you think about it, how you feel about it, how you respond to it. So, the bottom line here with self healing to me lies in the emotional, mental, psychic place. In fact, there are some quotations around, kind of difficult to really measure that, but it seems very obvious that I would say 90% of illness and disease is either created or perpetuated by that emotional response, right? So, hmm, let's talk about that. So, let's break down the word disease first and how I like to use that. Okay. I want to make sure I'm on. I don't want to the laptop again like I did yesterday. Okay. So, disease. Let's dissect that. So dis means out, right? And so ease, we know what ease is. Ease is flow, ease is easy. And when we are in dis-ease, we are out of alignment. We are out of the flow of alignment. Now, what is that? So for me, that flow of alignment is universal intelligence. It's that universal intelligence that is fraught with well-being. It is the perfection of the planetary system, the solar system, the nature systems, the rhythm of the earth, birth and dying and all the things, the growing of the grass, the gestation of the babies, the the seasons. It's all rhythmic, divine, universal intelligence. And it is all in the vein of thriving and well-being. And we are part of that. We're part and parcel of that. Our problem is that we forget our connection to that, that we are it. That is us. We are in that flow. That's the stuff that grows our hair, that beats our hearts, that grows our fingernails, that digests our food, that grows the cells and regenerates all of our organs year after year after year. We are reborn all the time. Again, the problem is because of our free will and our ability to create humans, we're very complex creatures. We make choices that block us from that flow. So, my goal is to help you find that flow and stay in that flow as much as you possibly can. Now, we are human, we're going to go in and out of the flow. But for the most part, once you know this information, you can get yourself back into the flow a lot easier with a lot more grace and a lot more ease instead of accepting the what is and then focusing on the problem and then growing the problem because you're focusing on it. It's all about the law of attraction. The law of attraction and the laws of manifesting work in every department of our lives, not just in material acquisition. It works in the healing world as well. So, this conversation really is a conversation about manifesting and manifesting good health and the laws and the rules around manifesting, right? What we're going to allow and what we're going to um, uh, stop doing so that we can continue the flow and get out of our own way so that we can be in that flow of divine wellness and being. And we can see this in nature. It is the dominant pulse, the dominant vibration of our universe is well-being. And we're part of that. So why would that not apply to us? Of course it does. So we need to simplify, take a few steps back and to see and remember, oh yeah, that's us. We are a part of that also. And to stop compartmentalizing ourselves from that flow of well-being, right? Some people call it gods. There's a lot of names for it. I call it universal intelligence because it's so smart. It's so smart, right? And it's not judgy and it's not punishing anything. It's not doing any of that. We are. We're either in the flow or we're out of the flow or we're blocking the flow, right? So it's really up to us. I said I was going to be a little provocative. Bear with me if you don't buy that. Hopefully, you will by the end of this conversation. So, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything other than their own inner brilliance and their ability to manifest an amazing life full of health and vitality and whatever else you want. But for this focus, it's health and vitality. Okay, so when we're talking about disease and those initial symptoms that come up, right? To me, those are signs. They're just signs. Just like when you're driving your car and then your oil light comes on, your engine light comes on. It's not the end of the world, so we're not going to drive our car off the cliff and just end it. We're going to pull into the oil change place and get an oil change, right? So we get these indicators, these early indicators that something's coming, that something's not quite right. And so that's our opportunity to pay attention. to go inside, to intuit, to ask, okay, what's going on? What do I need to pay attention to? And then, by virtue of our intuition, and I'll get into the steps of this a little bit later, we receive information and guidance that helps us through the situation that we're in, right? Um, so, what culture does, or society, or what we have been taught, is when we get a symptom, we automatically assume the worst and think that it's going to probably be a prolonged chronic situation, disease, illness, or whatever. And so we don't see it as a sign, we see it as we're already in it. And I think that if we can be more proactive, we can make a preemptive strike and we can stop it in its tracks if we catch it before it creates momentum, right? So that's what those symptoms are for. They're telltale signs for us to pay attention and to pivot. There's something that needs our attention. So, one of the things that make this difficult for us is that the media, especially, is always telling us how sick we are. And all those commercials and all those pharmaceutical commercials and the aging process and how we're just supposed to fall apart at a certain age, like you're dead over 50, It's like just quit, just go throw yourself off a mountaintop. And it's just complete nonsense and ridiculousness. And it is so perpetuated in Hollywood and the media and the pharmaceutical ads. It's prevalent. And so, of course, people are absorbing those messages and integrating those messages into their own psyches and becoming a reality. And that's sad because it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that at all. So this is when we become much more aware of what we're allowing in, what we watch. I just, I have a smart TV and I do watch telly, but I pay for the services that don't have ads because the pharmaceutical ads are just nauseating. They make me completely ill. Um, so they're counterproductive in my world, right? They are they're they're just awful, and we just need to minimize those messages and that noise because it's not helpful. And then we come into a place where we just expect illness, we expect disease, we expect degeneration. And I want to flip the narrative on that so we can expect well being, we can expect to thrive at any age, and we can expect to live our best life all the time, uh, when we pay attention to the emotional signals, the symptoms, and the signs. Uh, and we do know that where your energy goes, or where your attention goes, your energy flows. And so law of attraction says if we're going to focus on these diseases and these shortcomings and all the things that are wrong, then that's what we're going to create. That's what we're going to manifest. So if you are sick and if you are ill, I am not here to throw you under the bus. I am here to shine a light on the bigger lessons and the bigger purposes for those illnesses that are in your life so that you can learn from them, grow through them, and come out the other end as a thriving being. Our bodies want to heal themselves. They are constantly in this balance, this mode of fighting for our lives all the time. And so as one thing can pop up, and I typically give the example of, say, an alcoholic or somebody who has a really bad diet or something, or they're ingesting something that really hurts their organs, right? So instead of our body just shutting down and giving up, what it does is it fights for us. So then it creates cortisol, it creates fat around the organs. And so then we put on weight and we think that our body is working against us when in fact your body is keeping you alive. So if you cleaned up the environment, then your body wouldn't have to fight so hard to keep you alive and it would get back into the flow of its well-being. So again, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. there's bigger lessons here for all of us when we do uh, have illness or disease. And so my intention and my goal here is to shine a light on that and improve that and help you through this stuff, right? So we're all going to be subject to disease and illness at one time or another. The question is, how long are we going to stay there? What story are we going to tell ourselves about it? Um, are we going to perpetuate it, or are we going to speak words of healing and health and well-being? So I really do believe that all illness and disease is healable prior to rampant momentum. I do believe that after a certain point, a tipping point, that it's gone too far. There's too much momentum. It's not impossible to stop it, but it gets harder and harder to reverse things like that, right? And we know of thousands and thousands of people. I've watched a ton of documentaries and I've done the work myself of people who heal themselves of chronic diseases all the time, reversing their diabetes, reversing their heart disease by changing their diet and their lifestyle, right? And their mental stories. I have seen people heal themselves of arthritis, cancer, mental illness, and autoimmune diseases. And so there's there's some stories that some of us believe that some things are healable and some things are not. And I believe that it's all healable because it all stems from the same problem, the problem of disconnection, the problem of disconnection from spirit, disconnection from divine universal intelligence and that well-being. So we disconnect ourselves and we stay disconnected by perpetuating a lot of things when we could turn left at Albuquerque and do something differently. So that's I'm here to show you the differently. All right. So when those symptoms and diseases and the telltale signs start to show up in my own life, for example, that's when instead of fear, curiosity pops in. I just get so curious. It's like, okay, where am I out of alignment? What needs my attention? What's going on? What's the bigger purpose? What's the lesson here? What do I need to know? Um, and I think I'm very blessed and very grateful for my discovery of Louise Hay when I was like 19 years old. I found her probably most famous book, You Can Heal Your Life, in a sidewalk bookstore in Alameda, California for a dime. And it had a rainbow heart on it. And I picked it up because it was pretty. I was also an English major, so I read a lot of books. But this was my first nonfiction book probably in my whole life. And it was life changing for me. And Louise spoke of the correlation between our mental thoughts, our fears, our belief systems, and the physical ailments. So, for an example, she said, if we're experiencing pain in our knees or our hips, it could potentially be because we are fearing moving forward, right? Now, sometimes the cigar is just a cigar, and sometimes inflammation causes that too. And maybe it's a combination of both. So while we're here, we're going to look at all of the uh, all of the possibilities and aspects so that we can heal and eradicate or change things up so that we can when we know better we do better, for example. So when for example, do have something going on, my first go-to response is, what is the bigger lesson? How is this serving me? How is this serving me? So this is one of those things that you may not want to hear either, but I'm going to tell you anyway because I heard it and I didn't like it when I heard it. So years ago, when I lived in Denver, I was, a freelancer, single mom, taking care of business. And sometimes I had really great income and sometimes I didn't. And in this one month, I was struggling financially and I didn't have rent money and I was into a panic. And when I get into a panic like that, I have a tendency to freeze. Like I just can't do anything, fight, flight, or freeze, right? So I'm frozen, but I do muster up the intelligence or the strength to call my friend who was my spiritual teacher at the time. She was the director of the Center of Spiritual Living in Denver. And she asked me, Charlene, how is being broke serving you? And I got really upset and I said, well, it's not serving me, it's hurting me. And she goes, well, I want you to ponder that question for a while and ask how this is serving you. So, this is the question that I ask every time now. When I got into a calmer place, I realized, the intuition, everything opened up because I wanted to know the answer to that. How is this serving me? According to Karen, it's serving me. So I started to remember, my past and the struggles that I always had growing up as a kid, getting pregnant when I was 17, being a single mom, just flying by the seat of my pants, uh, disowned by my family, living in poverty, doing the best I could. I was able to go to college, but times were always tight. Uh, and then I became a school teacher, and then times stayed tight. It's like I never caught a break. And so my philosophy was to that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And I was a warrior and I was a last minute manifester. And so I heard my story as Karen asked, "How does this serve you?" It's like, "Oh, being broke right now serves me because now I can be triumphant over it. Now I can be a victor over that and be the badass single mom that I have professed myself to be." Right? So I realized really quickly that it was really not in my best interest to have that motto anymore. That which kills me makes me stronger, because I realized that it was setting me up to attract things that almost kill me or things that really bring me down and challenge, challenge, challenge. I decided that day that I didn't have to struggle anymore, that I didn't have to fight, that I can get into the flow of the well being of the universe and stop having to survive all the time and to be this strong woman survivor. That story that women are telling themselves has to go. It's not helping, right? So now my story is I'm in the flow. I'm in the flow of well being. I allow all the blessings into my life, the financial, the well being, all the things, right? So no more struggle, no more strife. In fact, I don't advocate the fighting for anything, I am an advocate for well-being, and that's where I put my attention on well-being and thriving and health, right? So, whatever is going on in your life, if you asked how is this serving you, let that soak in, and eventually something will come up for you, and then you'll be able to decide if that's something that you want to hold on to anymore, or if it's something that you can release and let go and change the narrative, right? When we change that story, everything changes. We change that perspective, everything changes. All right. So in my practice, though, I have to say that many times I get clients who really want change in their lives, and they are too fearful to make those changes. I've seen it play out so many times. I know that the universe has our backs. I know that we live in a responsive universe that is always responding to what's really going on. It's not responding to our lip service, it's responding to our vibration. And so, for example, I'll make up a client, and so she's in an unhappy marriage, right? And she's just not digging this marriage. She wants out, but it's too financially hard for her to leave, or it's just She doesn't wanna break up the family. You fill in all the blanks. So we have this one strong feeling that is really nudging us and grabbing our attention, making us even feel nauseous or not right, like something's off kind of feeling, and then ignoring it. That to me is a violation in spirit. And what I see happen a lot of times is, and I don't know where it's coming from, either it's our high self or maybe there's an entourage of helpers, spirit helpers here designing these things for us, but something will push you into the thing that you really, 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 really want. And sometimes it's a painful push, right? And I see this play out. So it's like this person who hates their job, they get into a car accident. Coincidence? Maybe. Is it a way to get them out of the job? Maybe. I have magical thinking. So, yes, that's how I believe it to be. And we're always going to attract what it is that we really, 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 really want. So, my stance is to avoid the push, avoid the tower card in the tarot for things to happen, and be responsive, proactive in those early warning signs or those gut feelings or that those senses that something's not quite right. I'm not enjoying this. It's not right for me. Those kinds of things, they're strong. And so I think it's in our best interest to pay attention to that so that we can avoid the surprises that the universe has in store for us to help us get into alignment. Because I'm telling you, the bottom line with all of this is alignment. It's like we are wired to be aligned. And when we're not aligned, it hurts us. If we're not aligned with our high self, our inner being, it hurts. We know it. We're violating ourselves. And it's kind of to me like the worst pain. I don't like that because I know I'm doing it to myself. And so that's when I just have to go, okay, let's get into alignment. I'm violating myself and this is not good. Okay. And yes, so when we're having those universal expansion moments, the graduation moments, the moving on moments. A lot of people don't like change. They come with growing pains. They can come with growing pains. Other people who kind of, like change and was like, okay, next, then they get to avoid the growing pain. And maybe it's just a little bit more simple because they've wrapped their head around, yeah, I'm changing. This is good. Reinvention time. Yes, sign me up. Okay, so I want to talk about the things that block your healing and the power tools to enhance your healing. Okay, so first I think I want to do the stuff that blocks. That's way more interesting, right? Let's dive into the negative stuff. Okay. The stuff that blocks your healing. I think the first thing most definitely is I think I already touched on this a little bit, is when we are repeating the story of our illness and disease from a victim perspective. I think basically when we're just repeating our story, we are keeping it alive. Now, sometimes we're talking about our story with the intention of finding solution or being in a place of solution, right? So I'm not saying don't ever talk about, disease, but coming from a place of perpetuating it just for the sake of perpetuating it, like you're not looking for a solution, you're just talking about it. And then coming from a place of being a victim, I think is a double whammy. Ow. So now we're saying, oh, why me? And we're coming from a place of, I'm just so powerless and I don't have any recourses, or resources. It's just my fate. It's just my lot in life. Oh well. And that gives me so many red flags because, first of all, I don't believe there's a fate. I believe that your fate is up to you, and we are constantly designing our lives. And I would not want to design a life that was fraught with disease and illness. That's just not my bag, not my cup of tea. That does not serve me. So I do see how it can serve a lot of people, though. Again, don't hate me, but it is a good way to get attention. It is, I mean, it serves some needs for some people, right? Who are maybe not in a place of high awareness or spiritual maturity, right? And so they're stuck in a lower level frequency, root chakra stuff, just lower level. And that is one of the things that I see to be the most prevalent problem with these conditions. People just accept them instead of saying that it's a short-term blip on the radar and I got my attention, and so now I'm gonna do some stuff so I can heal it. But no, it's more like, okay, well, this is it. All right, I guess I'm gonna have this the rest of my life. Sign me up. Woe is me. So we have to stop telling that narrative and that story. The second one is when we hold on to the past, and we hold on to like resentments, jealousies, disappointments, and we are cynical because of our past situations and we're projecting all that into our present moment. I always think, English major, of Miss Havisham when I think of people holding on to the past. I hope you're familiar with Miss Havisham. She was left at the altar on her wedding day when she was young, and then she every day she got dressed in her wedding dress, and she had the wedding cake. I mean, 20 years later, just full of decay, rats and mice and all this stuff in it. But and then she stopped the clock on the time that she was dumped at the altar. And she lived in this state of hatred and sadness and resentment. And it just ate her alive. And then, of course, she paid that forward to Estelle. Anyway, that stuff is toxic, toxic, toxic. And so holding on to the past and all of the stories of the past is just no, 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 no. So I'm going to talk about the healing processes so we can stop doing these things in a bit. But first, we're going to focus on the issues here, or the blockages. The third one that I see that's probably the most prevalent, actually. It feels kind of harmless, but it's not. It's giving your power away. Giving your power away to the others, to the professionals, to the doctors. You know, um, I do believe that there is a place for all healing. So I'll go to the doctors when I need to go to the doctors. Absolutely. But what happens in our society and in our culture is that we blindly give ourselves to the professionals without really exploring what's happening with us. And we are the best knowers of our own bodies way more than anybody else. And so the doctor, in his educated experience, is guessing what may work for you, what may not work for you, don't know. But we hold on to that like it's the holy grail, when I think that that is a misplacement of our power. So yep, we go get help when we need it, and we go to the practitioners and we go to the professionals, we get opinions, we get advice, and then we intuit and we feel what feels right and best for us, right? But we don't do that. We just follow the protocol that they say, and then we have all these side effects and, da 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 da. So, I'm not saying to break up with your doctor, but I'm saying expand your research, look deeper, look into alternative healers or different practices. Feel what feels right for you. Really be with yourself so that you can detect what is correct and what is incorrect for you. You can even do body testing. You can there's so many different techniques and tools here for you to empower yourself to the right protocols that are for you, right? And I'm going to talk about the good ones here in a little bit. The number 4 is looking for problems. I mentioned this earlier. Some people are just expecting their bodies to fall apart at a certain age, right? And so, if that's what we're looking for, that's what we're going to get because the law of attraction is always responding. And our brains are wired to find the things that we are looking for. So, there's this universal law happening, and then there's this physical phenomenon happening with us as well, where our brains are powerful magnets to the things that we're looking for. I forget what that whole phenomenon is called, but it's very obvious that we do that. So we grow what we're focusing on. So I challenge you to examine the beliefs, the thoughts that you have about aging, and the thoughts and beliefs that you have just about health in general. And is it something that is supposed to start great and then constantly decline? That's, I think, the norm that a lot of people have with their ideas about illness. And then there's other people who say, no, actually, I'm getting better as I know more. I'm getting better as I'm aging. I'm getting smarter and wiser, and I'm not hurting myself anymore. I'm much more into the flow. I figured this out. Okay, I'm going to continue on that path, right? So the choice is yours. This is your right as a human being, right? We have free will and we can make those choices for ourselves. But I do implore you to examine your thoughts and beliefs about that stuff so you can hmm, really stop and ponder and think about, is that really true? Is that really true for you anymore? Or is it just something, an idea or a thought that you picked up from someplace else that maybe isn't serving you very well? Hmm, right? Okay, let's get into the power tools. So I call these the power tools for healing because they are. Healing happens here. Healing happens here. Healing is within all of it, every single bit of it. So when we know our inner brilliance and we take our power back, now we can explore those places inside of us that need a little tweaking, that need a little help so that we can clean up our environment internally. There is a profound connection between the mind and the body and spirit, right? And so when we have a clean environment, our bodies, from which our spirit can dwell and thrive, then anything is possible. And so all healing starts within. And so the first one that I want to throw out there is forgiveness. So let's think about Miss Havisham. Now, she didn't have any forgiveness in her heart, but that ate her away. And I know she's a fictional character, but she does represent a lot of people in real life, right? So having those internal resentments, those hatred, that it just blocks everything. It's just like, the hose, your garden hose and the water running through it, you turn it on and it's just full force. Hatred and resentment is like you going like and just cutting it off. Like you are out of the flow. No love can go there. That's where fear goes. That's where all the dark stuff goes, right? So a lot of people get hung up on forgiveness because they feel offended and they want to be right in their righteousness and their judgments and all of that. But it doesn't serve anybody to do that. It only hurts us. So the quicker we can learn that forgiveness isn't about approving somebody's bad behavior or dismissing it, it's about releasing it from our own psyche, releasing that toxicity and that crap and that garbage from our own environment so that we can vibrate at a higher frequency so that we don't stay in a sick place. It's like you just take your toxicity back. You can have it. I don't want it. There you go. And so when people want to serve me up some toxicity, I play this little mental game of tennis, and I get my my tennis racket in my imagination, and I just go psh, and I just bounce it right back. It's like, no, thanks. And if people do, and they, of course, they have harmed me or abused me or anything like that, I have done the work around the forgiveness part. And so it might, if it's trauma involved, it might take therapy, it might take bigger tools, bigger resources, but it's still all very doable, very possible, um, and very essential for your very well-being. So the sooner we learn how to release ourselves from the prison of resentment, then the quicker we can get back into alignment with our high self. Our high self doesn't want us to be there. It's not a fun place. And it's being stuck in the past too, by the way, right? And so I don't want to hold on to that stuff. I want to be in the present and then lean into the future as to what's next for what's next, what's coming now, it's all good. And if we are, again, by law of attraction, really focusing on the trauma, it's such a catchy word these days, then we are going to perpetuate that trauma, guys. We need to stop doing that by talking about it so much and being your story. It's a part of your story. It's not the end all be all of your story. And it's in fact a part of your story that is leading you to the higher version of yourself. So we can see the trauma, the the misdeeds, we can see them as things that hurt but evolved us. They evolved us. They either evolve us or devolve us. So which one do you want to be? I want to be in the place where all of those trials and tribulations have evolved me into the healing person that I am today, right? Because now I have compassion and empathy for trauma and abuse and you know disease and all those things. So these are questions to ask yourself. It's like, how do I want this to play out in my life? You know, so forgiveness is a big one. And then so that helps us clean up our energy field and clean up our environment so that our environment is conducive to health and well-being. And then number 2 is gratitude and appreciation. It's so what's the word? Minimized in our culture. Or just like a cute little, oh, it's so cute to being grateful. But it's it's way more than that. Gratitude and appreciation opens up your heart chakra. Your heart chakra is the place of healing. It's the highest vibration. And so it heals all wounds. So when we have gratitude and appreciation, it raises our vibrations and it actually changes the molecules in our bodies. One of the quickest ways for me to get into a place of uh, appreciation and gratitude is when I think like about my grandmother, who was my favorite person on the planet. She loved me unconditionally and moved mountains for me. She was always my ally. And I just, she was before her time. She was an amazing, amazing woman. And I can think about her and I get filled with love and gratitude and appreciation. So that, we can get into that state rather quickly and we can change the direction of our energy from spiraling to a place of appreciation, which is an antidote to disease. It's going to eradicate it basically. Another thing you can do is take a gratitude time out and just sit in gratitude and look at all the things that you can be grateful for, counting your blessings basically. It's good medicine, guys, and I think it's very undervalued and underrated. Okay, the third power tool for self-healing Those of you who know me, you know I'm going to say this. Imagination. Imagination is everything. Imagination is the portal to all things manifest. Imagination is step one, it's the foundation for everything. And so, when we are worrying about our diseases, we are using our imagination backwards. We're using our imagination for not good. So, what I want to do is because you're focusing on the what is. That's really not even a clever use of your imagination. Imagination is imagining something else, imagining something different, imagining health and well-being. So say you do have a dis-ease, you are in a state of dis-ease, then you can imagine what you would rather have or how you would rather feel. And you can pull your healthy self up in the whiteboard of your imagination or your chalkboard or whatever that looks like for you, the movie, and you can see yourself whole and complete, right? This is a practice that I have been doing for years. And in my recent years, those of you who know me know that I swear by this method, especially when all else seems to not be working. The story that I have with my son and his challenges with mental health, and me feeling that, oh my gosh, okay, we can heal diabetes, but I don't know if we can really heal mental health. I was challenged by that, but I held in my mind's eye him healing through that, and seeing it as a blip, just like I see every other illness and disease as a blip and not a chronic long-term situation. So I had to fight a lot of the fear, but I used my imagination. I saw him as I knew him before all of this. I saw him healthy and whole, his magical, kind musician self, and I held that and I held that. And that's all that I would believe him to be. And within a couple of years, he's healed and he is better than before and thriving and doing really well. So this stuff works, guys. Your mental energy is a power tool. And how you use that mental energy, you can use it for good or you can use it for evil. Your choice. I choose to use it for good because it gets on me too, right? And so whatever you're putting out there, it's getting on you too. It's going out and it's also infusing with you. So when all else seems to be failing, go into the quiet place and meditate, imagine, pray, whatever term you call it. I call it imagitation because it's a meditation with that I'm imagining and I'm seeing my outcome. I have an agenda. I'm seeing the end picture that I want to have happen, the happy ending, the all of that. And in doing so, you are moving energy. I call that bending energy. And we are wired to do that. I just encourage you to try that yourself because it works. It really works. Okay. So my buddy Einstein even says, and I'm going to quote him, imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand. So this is where we can go into the other places. There's no limitation to the places you can go with your imagination, right? And it is such a power tool. I mean, if you think about like Wi-Fi working and you think about microwaves and all this stuff, all this energy working, electricity, it's all working. We can't see it. Why not our mental energy? Of course it's working. Of course it's doing things. It's going to its intended targets. It's doing stuff. So be more mindful about how you're using your mind and your imagination. And when you find yourself in a place of worry, know that you're using your imagination backwards. That's when I'm like, okay, back it up, back it up. Let's go, let's change course and let's imagine what we want instead of what we fear. Because either way, we are growing the thing that we're imagining and thinking about, right? Okay. So, all right. The is it 4? Okay, I have 5. The fourth power tool for self-healing is intuition. Of course, you knew I was gonna say that too. So, this is where the answers come, guys. So, when you are having an issue in your body or in your mental state, something is out of alignment. This is where we get curious and we ask our higher self, we ask our heart, we ask that intuitive part of you, what do I need? What's going on here? What do I need to focus on? And because we live in a 100% responsive universe, you will be given downloads. You will be given answers. The right people, the right information, the right resources will pop up for you. And you'll see, and a lot of the stuff that popped up for me with my son was diet, 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 food. Let food be thy medicine. And so that got me very curious about food and how it works with the body and the brain and all of that. And so that's when your intuition will is your best guidance. It's going to give you the glimpses, the oh, okay, I need to look here, I need to look there. And then now it's your job to follow the breadcrumbs and to fill out the bigger picture so that you have more understanding and more information, right? Intuition is an amazing power tool. Absolutely. So we learn to listen. Vibrational alignment really is everything. So when we're asking our intuition, what do I need for my vibrational alignment? You will get the answers. You may not get them right away. A lot of times the answers come when you're in a very receptive state. Could be sleep, through dreams, when you're washing dishes, when you're driving your car, when you're in that zony place where you're not trying to problem solve, but you're receiving information, and then that one song comes on the radio, or you see a billboard with a number or a product, or you're like, oh, that's it, or a podcast pops up, you're like, oh, that one's for me. So stay alert and know that answers are always coming to you when you're asking good questions, right? Okay, so let's talk about number 5. Number 5 is faith. Faith is huge in manifesting, right? Faith is huge in manifesting anything. So, I was raised in a household, and I think I'm very blessed with this, that my dad used to run around saying, "Whatever you believe, so shall it be." Like, I would be upset about a test coming up, and I was like, "Oh, I suck at math," right? So I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna fail," and he says, "Okay, if you insist," kind of stuff. So then it made me, oh my gosh, well, if it's up to me, then maybe I should just study so I don't fail, right? And and so that was ingrained in my upbringing, and I feel very fortunate to have that kind of mindset that whatever I believe comes to pass. Absolutely. There's so many biblical sightings of that phrase in different ways. I know in Matthew 21:22 it says, "And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith." That's a big if you have faith. Now, I'm not um, religious, but I love the Bible for the psychology that it is. It's brilliant psychology, guys. And it's a lot about manifesting, and all the rules of manifesting and the laws of the universe, and having faith is the foundation. Because if you don't believe or have faith that things can change or improve, then they won't. It's that simple. It's that simple. We complicate the heck out of everything. So, unto your faith, so it is. There's another one, right, that I remember from childhood. And this goes right along with the placebo effect. Let me read you the definition of the placebo effect. I love the placebo effect. A lot of people don't. They think the placebo effect is something negative, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's everything." The placebo effect is a beneficial effect produced by a placebo drug or treatment which cannot be attributed to the properties of the placebo itself and must therefore be due to the patient's belief in that treatment. Hmm. Orthodox doctors dismiss the positive results as a result of the placebo effect. Well, of course they do. They would be out of business if they believed in the placebo effect. Then they would be therapists and healers instead of doctors, right? Because it's easier to help people in their belief and faith system when you're in that field than a doctor. A doctor, wants to prescribe stuff. So anyhow, there is a lot that we shared. It's 1 o'clock on the hour, and I don't want to keep you longer. So, like I said, I jammed 2 days into one. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Tomorrow, I'm going to explore with you energy healing techniques, things, tangible things that you can do to help your healing process. We're going to talk a little bit about Reiki, EFT, energy healing, all of the above, all the things that you can play with and experiment with. But I want you to remember that the healing and the healer is you, not the thing. They're just tools. The healer is you. You are your healer. You are your guru. You are your inner brilliant genius manifesting healing machine. All right. So if you don't believe that, borrow it from me because I know it to be true. Okay. So until tomorrow, guys, have a great rest of the day and take good care of yourself.